All right, let's go ahead and get started. Ako sa PBA, or in Tessito, sa Malaki. Hello, everyone. I'm Lori. I am a citizen of the Shawnee and Denver Texas, also a retention specialist. So some of you I work with, some of you I don't, but so happy that you're here for our time management seminar. So we're just going to give you some tips on how to manage your academic schedule, personal, and help you to navigate through college in the best way possible to get yourself organized. So we're going to have an opportunity for each of you to share what works best for you in managing your time. But first, we will hear from my colleague, Ron.
All right. Come on in, find a place to sit. Greetings to all of you out there in online land. Okay, this wasn't rehearsed, so. Today, we are talking about time management, but it's more than just calendars and schedules and plans. It's about knowing yourself. It's about knowing your style of learning and your habits and how you best can utilize those things. So the first thing is, I am a visual learner. If I have to look at a calendar or something, I have to see a broad picture of it. I can't just look at what's due today. I have to know what's due next week, this month, in order to stay on task. Some people, they can go day to day. So, like I said, you have to understand how it works best for you. There are so many different options out there. And we used to do links for free online apps, but most of them aren't free anymore. They're free for like 30 days and then they'll bill you every month. So you could do that. There are a lot of options. If you have Outlook on your computers, you can build your own on Excel. But again, it all comes down to what's going to work for you. Because this is something that you're going to work with from now until you graduate this whole semester. And I look at it as building blocks. If you establish a good base, then you can build from that. And one of the key things about it is, once you find how it works best for you, then make time to plan. So whether you consider Sunday or Monday the start of your week, or even Saturday, make some time so that you plan for that whole week and what you need to get done and how you're going to do it. And then that way, do that every week. Make that a habit so that okay, I need to plan. And one of the key things is not to beat yourself up if you get off track. So many times people spend hours and hours trying to get organized, trying to set up a schedule, and the minute they get thrown off of it, then they just kind of wander off into space. And at the end of the semester, they try to come back and say, oh my God, what do I got to do? And so that's one thing we want to avoid is that panic feeling, because your emergencies aren't always the emergencies for your instructors. So the more you can bring yourself back in onto your scheduling, the less you're going to feel all of that kind of anxiety if you get off track. Okay. Now I know most of you have a phone, and I don't know if you use your phone calendars or not. That's the ones that are the freest. And for me, like I said, I have to look at it every day, and I have to start from here, from the broader picture. You can see that. And then I go into the weeks and, special events, different things But I have to make the time to put it in there. And that's something that I'm kind of hit or miss with. Not the greatest at it because I'm used to looking at a big poster that I made up myself. But I'm trying to catch up with the world, and this has been really helpful for me. So one of the things too that's very important when you are establishing your routine is to reward yourself. So, you go through the week and you say, hey, I got almost everything done, or I did get everything done. Then reward yourself. Something that you enjoy, go out and eat, get something, a treat, go out with friends, whatever it is, take time for yourself. Okay? So don't beat yourself up if you get off track. Always, though, reward yourself for those little successes because over time that builds up. And that helps you in the long run. So, oh yeah, back to here. And then adding things in every day, you can plan ahead that way. So hopefully that will help you. And then just making sure that you stay on task. As a student, this becomes like your job. If you're a full-time student, it takes about the same amount of time if you were working a full-time job. So you have to ask yourself every day, how much work have I put in toward my future? Because this is an investment in your future. So it's no one else's task to do it. It's your task, okay? All right, I'm gonna turn it back over to Lori, and she has some things to share with you. Bye.
All right, I feel like we're 6 feet apart, so I want to be able to focus online to be able to hear what I'm saying. So I'm just going to go over a few strategies that you can use to. You want to set goals, set measurable goals, and write them down. Do you know what a measurable goal is? So if you say, I'm going to get this done by Friday, then if you get it done by Friday, then you can say that was a success, and if you don't, then and you have to move it to a different day. That's how you would measure whether or not that you got that done. Very simple. So you want to make sure that you connect with your advisors and instructors. If you don't know, I feel like that one of the biggest obstacles in managing your time is spending a lot of time figuring out what the instructor wants with an assignment, right? So make sure that you have a relationship with your instructor so you feel comfortable going to them and saying, hey, I don't understand this, or sending them an email. If you can't get communication from an instructor, reach out to your academic advisor or your retention specialist. That's really, really important. We can help you make those connections. You can use us as a copy us on the emails that you send to your instructor so they know that somebody is holding them accountable. And then if you still can't get a hold of an instructor, sometimes we can reach out to a dean and say, hey, what's going on? We can't get a hold of this person. So that's going to be really important. It's going to save you a lot of time if you feel comfortable talking with these people about what they want and what their expectations are. Prioritizing assignments. That can be pretty easy if you have a syllabus. Usually on every syllabus, they'll say, here's what the calendar looks like throughout the semester. And so you can go through, like Ron said, on your calendar, on your Outlook calendar, or your phone calendar, and input those assignments in priority order. The key is when am I going to start working on this? I have a 5-page paper due on Friday. How long is it going to take me to carve some time out to get that done? You don't want to do it the night before, right? I've done a 5-page paper the night before, one time. I will never do it again because it hurt me, right? So I want to plan, okay, well, I'm going to do a rough draft. I'm going to do an outline here on Tuesday. On Thursday, I'm going to do a rough draft and then edit. And then, just think of the process, the things that you have to do with your assignments that is going to make sure you get it complete. You got to allow for computer and internet issues. If I have an assignment due on Friday, I don't want to start it on Thursday because what if I can't get a signal? Or what if my computer crashes and I have to do a backup? Be thinking about backup plans. Make sure you back stuff up on a jump drive. When I was a student here, I had so many folks. I had a gal that was in my dorm that lost her jump drive that had all of her assignments on it for that particular time period, right before finals, dropped it somewhere, couldn't find it. Somebody found it outside of Louis, which lucky for her, somebody found it, right? But I mean, try to do backups on a cloud or someplace on the internet so you don't have to run into those problems. But here's some information for IT, and if you have problems with Blackboard, who you can contact to get ahead of those things. You have to study. I mean, that's just the way it is. College students are notorious for the night before. I'm going to do this the night before. You're not going to absorb information because all of the things that you're doing throughout the semester are going to come to a final or come to a midterm point. And so things that you're doing overnight or at midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to be able to absorb that information, right? So the general rule, and I'm sure you may have already had professors talk to you about this, but the general rule is to study 2 to 3 hours outside of class. So that is somewhere around between 6 and 9 hours per week per class, okay? And I'll give you some tips on how you can manage that in making like a calendar or connecting that with your class time. But I don't know that anybody that actually follows that rule to the letter. I know some med students that do. But I never could follow it to the letter because there's so much that you're managing, especially if you're in clubs, if you work, if you have a family, if you're coming to Trio seminars, things like that. But I can show you how you can track that to kind of see where you're at in your study time. And then create a daily schedule. So here is something that you can use as a good tool. And I'm going to pass this out. I'm sorry about that. Probably didn't see my. Anyway. So I got this from a spreadsheet that a couple of years ago, the student senate president put on their Facebook, on their social media. It was just a short 1-minute video from a student that built this spreadsheet out. You can transfer this to your Outlook calendar on Microsoft Outlook. You can also do this on your phone. I'm not sure how the color coding works on your phone, but I'm certain that you can do it on your Outlook calendar to color code. So what I did is, here's my schedule, here's my classes, and then you always have to incorporate time for yourself, okay? Like if you have a self-care plan, does everybody have a self-care plan? If you don't have a self-care plan, you need to get a self-care plan. So you can incorporate that in to that too. And Delilah will talk more about that in just a minute. But so everything that has a order around it is the actual class, okay? So these are the classes that I'm taking, and this is how I put it in my schedule. I mean, when you start out building this, you want to think about, okay, I don't get out of bed until 9:30. So I'm not going to start doing anything until my first class. I know that for sure. I don't want to do anything past 5, so I'm not going to put anything past 5 on here. Just set some parameters that are comfortable for you, and then you can work off that as you move forward. If you don't have enough study time scheduled in, then you can start to pull in time from the evenings or maybe from the weekends. But this is ideally what I want to do starting out. So with the bold, I can look at the bold around these boxes and know that these are the actual class times. Then the other boxes is where that I plugged in study time. So when at a glance, if I look at this in math, I can count 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. So I have 4 hours of math homework or tutoring that I'm doing outside of class time. Same thing with English.
whatever is bold around is the class, but other than that, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 hours of that too, right? So if you're supposed to do 6 to 9, I might pull in a Sunday night. I really like studying on Sunday night because it gets me back in my academic mindset from the weekend, so I can be in that mindset when class time comes. So you're kind of at an advantage because some of your classes are online anyway, right? So let's say I have math online and I know that this is class time. I mean, if it's not something that's meeting it face-to-face where you have to sign in and actually be in a kind of a classroom environment, you can kind of count that as your study time too, because you're going in, you're pulling off your assignments, let's say, if it's asynchronous, then perhaps you're just pulling the assignments off clock. And then you're organizing yourself so you could study at that time too. So, I mean, if you have that situation, that adds another hour of study time onto your schedule. So I'm not going to go in a whole lot of detail about it because it's pretty self-explanatory. I know it looks complicated. What's the great thing about using a system like this on your cell phone?
You have reminders.
Right, which are great. So when I first came to high school, which was about 8 years ago, I didn't even have a smartphone. So I did the poster board system. I had this big eraser board on my dorm room door, and I would just write, I'd have my first class, go in and write it in when it was due, and then put a little thing that says, okay, I need to start this assignment at this time. What a mess that was. Finally, my kids were like, you just get a smartphone so you can do all of that on your calendar. I don't know about Androids, but on iPhones, you can set 2 reminders, right? So if I have an assignment that's due in sight on Thursday, I can remind myself a couple of days before and then the Sunday before, let's say. So and you can do both. You can kind of plug in reminders about your assignments on your phone based on a schedule that you built like this, so you can refer to it. But I mean, whatever works for you is most important. What did I do?
It's great.
Oh, dang, sorry. Thank you. So, that works. I mean, you have to have some type of organization, right? Everybody agrees that you have to have some type of organization. You can do this in a planner if you have a weekly, daily planner, and Delilah will talk a little bit more about that too. But this is just kind of to give you some ideas to bounce off and figure out how you're going to organize yourself and make sure you stay on task. Who knows about procrastination? Anybody in the room? All right, so I have a little handout that I'm going to pass out that will talk just briefly about procrastination. I think the main thing about procrastination is just identifying why you're procrastinating, right? Like, of course, motivation has a lot to do with it, but that's what college is about, right? College is about being motivated and staying motivated to get your assignments done and to do the work. So when I procrastinate, this thing says that people procrastinate for all kinds of reasons. Are you worried about the assignment? Like, does it give you anxiety to think about something that you're not sure about? So you're just like, gonna put that off. Like, I'm gonna go to Dairy Queen instead. I'll do that assignment later. And then the next thing you know, it's 2 days later and it's time to do the assignment, right? It's too big to tackle. This project is too big. I'm in a study group. Nobody's on the same page as me. I'm just not gonna do it. Kind of a thing. You get distracted by details. You think the project has to be perfect. You don't have enough time, and the work doesn't seem relevant. That's a big one, especially if you're just doing gen eds. If you just got here and you're like, why am I doing algebra? I will never use it. Trust me, when you get into your job, I work in higher ed, and I've had to call people on an algebra type issue when I'm doing statistics. Like, in order to assess whether or not our programming is good, we have to crunch some numbers, right? Like you're going to have to do some amount of working with numbers. But at the time, I was taking algebra, same thing. I was like, why am I doing this? So the first step in trying to identify what's going on is to pinpoint the fear, stop trying to be so perfect, slice the project into smaller, more manageable pieces, be specific about each piece of the work, make a list of things to be done, avoid distractions, and reassess your goals. So basically what the sheet is just saying to kind of generalize is like you have to figure out why. Why is it that you don't have any motivation to complete your assignments? Here's a really big thing for me. When I wanted to procrastinate, I would clean my room. I'm like, this dorm room is filthy. I got to clean this dorm. I'm going to do my laundry, and it would be an all afternoon thing. And thinking, okay, well, I'm being productive. I'm doing something really productive. So, that kind of justifies the fact that I've not looked at my planner or looked at my assignments, right? So that's kind of like a mental game that you play with yourself to trick yourself to be like, oh, it's okay because I'm being productive. So I think if you just can identify what you're doing, those things that you're doing that you're avoiding the assignment, that's half the battle. So, and you can read in that in more depth further. So let's share some time management strategies. We'll start with Delilah and Kyla, and then just have a discussion about if anybody has any tips for everybody, for the rest of us, that would be great. Delilah.
Sorry, you caught me off guard real quick.
You're on.
So, with time management, I always forget to add in self-care, even the littlest things. Sometimes I forget to eat breakfast, sometimes I just literally in general forget to eat for the day, which is not healthy. Don't do that. Usually what I do, I have a weekly planner. Instead, it's blank, so I put in the dates. If there's no class that day, I'll just write really big, no class, and not worry about it. I put in all of my assignments that are due that day, and what time, what type of assignment it is. And then usually if I have to put it over to another one, I just do that. This helps me better because I used to do the thing that Ron and Lori did, big calendar. And I didn't like that because I got really anxious seeing all the assignments up that I had to do for the semester. But this one is a bit more manageable because this is me being responsible for the week rather than for the entire month or the entire next couple of months. And usually since I work here at Trio, usually this school, since I'm a full-time student, takes a lot of my time. I have made sure to do kind of what Lori did with her little timetable is I don't do anything before whatever time I go into work or whatever time I go into class, unless I just need to review something really simply. And then I don't do any work or do any homework by 7:30, because usually I get done from work by 5. I have a couple of hours after that to study, to do any assignments that I need to do, and then I eat, not exactly, but usually around 7:45. And then I need to be in bed and done with all of my nightly routines by 9 o'clock and be in my bed. Because if I don't do that, then I don't get any sleep and I'm just freaking out the next day that I can do something. Usually doing this, because I have a tiny little checklist on it, it makes me kind of feel happy at the end of the day because I'm like, I got that done. And then if it's all done, I'm usually can eat some chips. And or even with measurable goals or even just rewarding yourself. I don't reward myself daily because that would kind of defeat the purpose. Usually by the end of the week, because I don't do anything on the weekends. It's all personal time for me unless, it's something really small. Usually I don't want to do anything. I just want to sleep on the weekends. And that's what I do. But I've been doing this type of time management for the past month, and I've not really been that stressed. I usually get all my assignments done. I make sure to do all of my work stuff. I learned from just coming here to high school to prioritize everything that I need to do. And it's not something that you're going to get. I did start out with digital stuff and having everything on my phone, but Then I look at my phone, I see the reminder, I just dismiss it, and it just comes back again every 30 seconds. I'm like, I can just turn you off. I don't gotta look at you. And with like the calendar thing, just like I said, I got anxious and it just made me feel worse, and I just kind of erased all of it. I didn't have to look at it. With this, it does bring it down a bit to where I'm not anxious about what I have to do. It's more of just like, oh, that's all I have to do this week. That's fine. And I think the thing is, even with like making sure to take some time for self-care, it can be something really small. Sometimes like before any of my classes, I make sure that, oh, maybe I can do like a quick 10-minute face mask. It'll help me relax, it'll help me feel better. Or maybe I'll take a little bit more time into taking care of myself or even in the evening. And because I'm able to manage my time better, I'm not guilty for doing any of that. I'm always just like, I did it and now I'm done. I don't worry about it the next day. But with anything else, Michaela, do you have anything you want to say about time management? I will.
Your turn, Sam.
Okay. So I kind of do the planner thing, but mine is digital, and it's been working out somewhat okay, but since all my assignments, like, I don't know if any of you guys had any of those classes that had technical issues and they pushed like all their dates back to one day, so it's like 2 chapters of work all with the same due date. And okay, so that did not work for me because I had to go change all my dates. So I downloaded this app that I used to use, which was called Focus Keeper. And pretty much it uses the Pomodoro technique, which is where you set a certain amount of time where you're going to work. And then after that timer goes off, you give yourself a short break. So like after 3 rounds, you get a longer break. So for mine, I have it set for 25 minutes. It'll count down and you can set up however you want it to use. And then once the 25 minutes are up, I believe it gives me a 5-minute break, and then it starts over again. So then after 3 sessions of that, I get a 20-minute break. So my goal is to do this about 10 times throughout the day. So if I can get all that done, that's great. What I like about this, other than just being able to do that, it has a calendar in there, so you can put all your tasks in there and put reminders in there, just like in your phone. So like if I have to read a chapter, I can put it in there. I'm going to read a chapter for 25 minutes. I'm going to stop for 5 minutes and do whatever, come back, finish reading it. And I can set that up for like weekly reminders. But the other cool thing about it is it can actually track your progress on what you're doing. So like I have just started my account again. So like it'll go through the days and tell you how much time you've actually invested into what you've done and if you've actually stuck to your routine that you're taking. You can set it to where it's not automatically going to put your brakes on, where you have to actually hit the bell. So like if I get a phone call on my 5-minute break, that's gonna, sometimes I go longer than 5 minutes and then it messes up my thing all over again. So it kind of shows me like, okay, well, I need to have my phone with me, but I need to put it on where I'm not getting my calls and my notifications off. Only the ones that are like relevant to my education. Like all the distractions are. The other thing that I like to use, I don't know if Android has it, but Apple has it, where you can set reminders to your location. Like let's say you're like, when you get to Trio, you're gonna go talk to Ron or Lori. You can tell your phone to set that up, so once you walk in the building, it'll actually read that on there, and it'll remind you when it pops up. So I use that like when I go to the library, I need to go check, like talk to my instructor. That's the only time I see my instructor is at the library. So, I mean, you can use digital stuff or you can use handwritten stuff. It's more or less, I like the notifications that I need that annoyance telling me like, okay, get to it. But I don't know about what works for you guys.
Anybody online or otherwise have tips that they use to manage their time?
I'm digital, usually on my phone, because I have kids and a family. It's there for, I set my classes up from the start of the semester, then I end date on the last day of the semester. So then all those days are taken during the week. So I know that that's solid time that is gone and so are useful. So then I set that up for children's appointments, Trio seminars, anything that I get involved in, I set a reminder. Because as a parent, sometimes you schedule things with other time, and then you're like, oh, I forgot. Or like, you schedule something on the phone, but you don't have your phone out, like on the phone, but you don't have your calendar out, and you're like, oh, I got something that day, I totally forgot. So the phone works great for me as a reminder, but that's how my time management is spent with my kids too, so like, I have to set time out, like an hour in the evening to spend time with them. Either I can incorporate that to walking, with my daughter, or walking with my son, or working out, with my family, just small things that work.
Awesome. What about anybody else? Anybody else got anything? Okay. Who has a problem? Oh, yes, go ahead.
For me, I do like actually it's kind of helpful, like I'll take like one class that I really need to focus on. Actually, I'll put it, whatever, like I feel it up. Okay, I have like physically remind myself whether that like with the but I that like well, I really I have a planner that goes 30 minutes. Very different than you think that. And it actually really is helpful. It's actually nice to know. Planning, what you know is like, it'll be moving.
It's awesome. Is somebody saying something in the chat?
Yeah, Lexi says she uses a planner and reminders as well.
Someone online that's joined us on Zoom said that they use both the phone and the planner. I mean, I think that's a good for backup. So that's a really good strategy too. Thank you.
And then another one is they feel like writing down what they need to do throughout the day, like while you're going through it.
Okay. So writing it down as you go through the day. I'm almost positive there's some research centered around that, about when you actually write something out. I know when I was here, I'm sure other students were like, she writes out everything, but it helps me remember in some ways. So like when I was studying for a test, I would use note cards, and I would take key points and then write them on the note cards, and then just read the note cards throughout the week until it was time for the test. So that was really helpful. But writing things down works better for some than others. Like Ron said, he was a visual type person. So let's talk a little bit about motivation. I'm not going to keep you very much longer, but I mean, motivation is something that you're going to be struggling with throughout your time here in high school. The upperclassmen in the room can tell you that sometimes it's not easy being here. We're an underfunded institution. There's not as many people here that can help you in a timely manner. We're underfunded in all areas, or understaffed in all areas, faculty, staff. So that can be really frustrating. And what does that do to your motivation? I know when I was here, and I've talked to all kinds of students, like especially if you've worked before, or if you've been to another school, it's unexpected when you get here. And that can take a real hit to your motivation and make you lose sight of your goals, because it feels really heavy. You're like, I can't get anything done. No one will help me. I can't find anybody. Nobody will communicate with me, stuff like that. So you want to find ways to keep your momentum going. The best momentum that you'll ever find here is graduation. Go to the graduations, even if you don't know someone. They are so motivating, especially for Native folks, because it's a room full of Native folks being successful. And you get to see, when you see students walk across the stage, I mean, I feel like crying at every graduation. And I graduated 3 years ago, right? Just because it just makes you remember what you need to do here, right? And what you need to do for your people and your family and yourself. So that can really help too in terms of motivation. because you have to keep that momentum going somehow. Clubs are really good motivator too. You can get into a club and get where you're having your club meetings and you're talking to other students. I mean, draw strength from each other. I mean, if you don't watch the news and you hear about all these administration problems that Haskell has, we're still graduating people. Why is that? Because y'all got each other, right? You go to class together, you eat together, you sleep in the same building together. And then if you have clubs that you can, places where you can have discussions about what you're doing. I lived in Winona and I was an AIS major. After we leave Curtis, we all sat out in the lobby and talk about the class that we had or the particular issue, because we all have shared experiences, have the same kind of experiences. We know what we want to do. We want to know what we want to do for people. And that was super motivating. I was here during Standing Rock. So we all came together and rallied support around that. And we went up to KU here the other day this week to support the KU Native students with the art installation vandalism. That was really motivating because there was just a bunch of Native people around. They were burning sage, they were drumming. I mean, those kinds of spaces and clubs that you're involved in where you're helping your community and helping each other will be really motivating too. And you can also talk to your retention specialist about being motivated. So thank you guys for coming. Does anybody have anything else? Do you have any questions about anything?
It says what motivates them is good grades for scholarships.
Right. Money was a big motivator for me because I like free money. You like free money? And you can get those grades. You can get those grades. There is so much money that you can get. I know I went to Haskell with a guy that paid cash for a car when he lived, which that takes a lot of discipline. You know, you have to save all your Pell or save your scholarships in order to do that. But hey, you don't have a car payment when you first start your job, or if you're going to go to grad school or whatever. That's awesome. And the way to do that is to make sure that your GPS is up. Listen, I'm not smart. I have some kind of undiagnosed learning disability. I'm positive. So I had to work hard. Getting good grades is about work ethic. It's not about intelligence, right? You just got to make sure that you're working and getting it done. I went to school here with a 60-year-old Navajo woman, and she could not. Some vocabulary words were really hard for her. She carried around a dictionary. And this person, when she would read her reading, she'd have to go to this dictionary, back and forth, back and forth. That's work ethic right there. She did that had to do that with every reading. And now she's working for some big IHS out in Arizona with her business degree. So those kinds of things. Well, thank you for coming. Again, if you have questions about anything that's going on that you're not sure about, please let Ron or I know, or Yost or the two interns.